Greetings and a big Texas howdy and Merry Christmas to all of you of the Medway and District Working Age Group. Thank you, Phil, for inviting me to join the meeting of your friends today. I have a natural curiosity about where people are and how far they are from me, so I looked up your location. We're really not that far away. I live in a suburb of Houston, Texas called The Woodlands. We're a community of about 110,000 people. Come on in and make yourself at home and we'll visit for a little while. Take your boots off if you'd like to, and you sure won't need that coat today here in South Texas.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening.
Phil asked me to talk to you today about exercise and Parkinson's disease, or PD as I prefer to call it, rather than dignifying it by calling it by its proper name. I'm sure Dr. Parkinson was a fine man and a good doctor, but he'll get over it. And today I'll refer to people with PD as PWPs. One of my missions in life is to pass the word to other PWPs that you don't just have to sit around, take your pills, and wait for your PD to get worse. There are things you can do in the areas of exercise, music therapy, and nutrition that will help a PWP live better, and perhaps even live well with PD. I maintain a Facebook webpage dedicated to this mission. The subject of exercise and its effects on PD symptoms has been the subject of an extensive body of excellent research over the years, involving animal studies, human studies, and modern brain imaging. These are some of the many benefits to PWPs of a good exercise program. You can see they cover a wide range of human functions. Exercise is the single most effective thing you can do to live better with PD. What kind of exercise are we talking about? When you hear one person like a doctor ask another if they exercise regularly, have you ever heard the response, "Oh, I'm very active"? Well, usually these are the kind of activities the person's talking about. Well, that's not what we're talking about with PD. These are the kind of exercises that research and clinical trials have shown to be effective for reducing the symptoms of PD. To do a PWP any good, unfortunately, the exercise has to be of a type that is vigorous, gets your heart rate up, and makes you sweat a bit. The exercise that is effective for an individual depends on that PWP's ability. What's vigorous for me, for example, might be impossible for another PWP, or it might not be vigorous enough for another PWP. The exact dosage of exercise that's required is impossible to define, but this is the consensus of the experts who have researched this and those clinicians who have worked with PWPs. You can also see how you should feel when your exercise session is complete. Is it easy? Not for me. In fact, I had a dream the other night. It made me feel real happy the next morning. My friend Paul, on the other hand, is very faithful to his exercise regimen. There isn't anything that can keep him from starting or finishing his exercise session. See what I mean? When a PWP begins a vigorous exercise program, there's usually a contemporaneous improvement in motor skills because of either the natural dopamine production is increased in the brain or the available dopamine is utilized more effectively. About 3 to 6 months into the exercise program, a PWP will usually experience a more permanent improvement in motor skills. But use it or lose it applies here. If the exercise program is discontinued, all gains will be lost in about 6 weeks and you have to start all over. Which face would you rather have? I added neurologic music therapy, or NMT, which is a whole separate topic we don't have time to go into in depth today. Suffice it to say that NMT is timing your exercise pace to be in sync with the tempo of the music you're listening to. Here's a simple example. When my exercise program was still in the gestation stage, I began thinking it might be beneficial to combine exercise with NMT and increase the benefits beyond what each might yield individually. The gold standard medication for PD treatment is levodopa in one form or another. I've taken levodopa in some form every day since being diagnosed back in 2006. This chart shows you the ups and downs of my daily dosage for various reasons, but I want to focus on what happened after I began my exercise and NMT program in June of 2015. I was able to reduce my daily dosage by 40%, which is huge and was very beneficial for me because the ugly side effects of the medication were reduced as well. In addition, I regained much of my right arm swing, which had fallen victim to a classic PD symptom, and my posture improved. How can this happen, you might ask? The conventional wisdom among neuroscientists used to be that a person's brain didn't develop or grow or adapt anymore after their teenage years. Here's what happened to that belief. Years of research and clinical practice have demonstrated conclusively that a person's brain continues to grow and develop and change throughout their lifetime in response to external stimuli. This is possible because of the miraculous feature of the human central nervous system we call neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, for example, makes it possible for a person with a traumatic brain injury or a victim of a stroke to learn to speak or walk again. If you'd like to learn more about neuroplasticity, I recommend these two books by Dr. Norman Doidge. I'd like to end my visit with you today by talking about a couple of books and the anecdotal evidence presented in them. The first is an interesting informal study conducted by Dr. J. Alberts, a Parkinson's researcher. I read about Alberts' study in this wonderful book, Brainstorms: The Race to Unlock the Mysteries of Parkinson's Disease, by John Pofferman, who himself was diagnosed with PD in 2011. Dr. Alberts, who is an avid cyclist, participated in several week-long bicycle rides across his native state of Iowa, with a PWP on the rear seat, which is known as the stoker position in cycling parlance. Alberts observed a striking phenomenon about his stoker, the PWP. Their PD symptoms virtually disappeared after cycling for a while. This was true even for one stoker who had had deep brain stimulation, or DBS, and voluntarily turned off his stimulator during the week. Other exercise studies that Albert had read about had not shown such a dramatic change as this, but it finally came to Alberts. The exercise the stoker was doing was forced, vigorous exercise, just like that described in some of the mouse studies where researchers observed the most improvement. Albert's companion's normal pace might have been, say, 60 RPM, but with Albert's in the front seat, the stoker with Parkinson's disease was forced to cycle at about 90 RPM. It was Albert's conclusion that the forced exercise caused the near miraculous reduction in each of his companion's PD symptoms. The second account I want to present to you comes from John Pepper in South Africa. John wrote this wonderful little book about his experiences with exercise and PD, and you can read for yourself what he has to say about the results. John's big deal is walking. One subject we should probably touch on just briefly is safety. For example, if you work out in a gym, be sure you've had the proper instruction on how to use the equipment safely.
You got me like upside down. You're standing there, I swear my whole world is turned around.
If you run or walk outdoors, always be aware of your surroundings and remain vigilant to anything unusual. The same thing applies if you play sports.
If you kick a soccer ball just right, get a puppy.
I hope I've left you with a renewed awareness of the importance of exercise and its power to help a PWP live well with PD. I'm very aware that this is a working age group and your time demands are many, and so are your responsibilities. I was retired 8 years before my PD symptoms first presented. If you're a PWP, you have more of your life ahead of you than I do. There are many things you can do besides taking your pills, sitting around waiting for it to get worse. It's been an honor for me to be with you today. I'd love to come to England someday with my wife Joy and sit in on another one of your meetings if you would have me visit. Until then, I say, until we meet again, and I leave you with this personal motto of mine.